Karl, man, it is great to see you. How you holding up, man? Because I know you and I in 2020 talked a couple of times, music and things that you're up to. But of course, we're in 2021. It's been like what, 14 now months, 15 months now with this COVID pandemic going on with, lockdown, no lockdown, lockdown, mask, no
Yeah,
mask, shot, no shot. How you doing through all this, man? Because I know you're in Toronto, or are you in Toronto?
I am in Toronto. Thanks for
Yeah.
asking, and good to see you again. It has been a crazy roller coaster, man, ride ever since the pandemic. It's a year and a half of. The thing is, you know what, I pivoted. I was like, I'm gonna stay in studio. I'm gonna work on music. I'm gonna prepare something because I had a feeling that this thing can't just end like that. And obviously, a lot of people were right. A lot of people, some people were wrong at the beginning. Some people were right. Who knows? I'm not anti-mask. I'm not anti-vaccine, but I am not with the lockdowns. I don't think it's right to do that to people's businesses, their lives. That's unfair. But what else choice can we do? Nobody's bringing any better ideas. So at this point, we'll see what happens. But I've been lucky enough to have a studio, and I made my album during the pandemic, and here we are.
And you've been playing a lot of basketball out there, man, when you've had the chance.
When we
How's the
can.
Yes, when you can. How's the exercise going too, man? Because I know you've had personal trainers. I know you've always been fit. I mean, one of the biggest problems I'm having right now, man, not going to the gym. I am gaining weight like you wouldn't believe. And
Bro.
it's funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine before we started. He's having the same problem. We love food. And it seems like that's our crutch now.
Right, especially when you're bored and like there's a little more time than usual. You're gonna sit down and watch TV, and because there's nowhere to go. No, you can't just always. It's kind of cold outside to run. The gyms are closed. It's really tough, man. And I think that's one of the issues that the government could be a little better about. In making decisions on at least the health of our citizens. The gyms. I'm not. Believe me, I'm not one of those that just goes conspiratory on it. I feel bad even for me, man. I'm not barely working out. This virtual Zoom. I mean, I love you, but I'd rather see you in person, bro. Like,
Exactly. No, I hear
you
you
know,
loud and clear, man. Because
yeah,
I mean, we always every year
frustrating.
we've seen each other since day one,
Right.
and we're talking like what, 2 decades now? I guess. Are we
Yeah,
looking at that?
maybe 15 years. So,
15 years? Oh,
yeah,
15 years still, a
yeah,
decade and a half. That's still a long
yeah,
time. We've
yeah,
seen each other in person every year. So yeah, this is kind of weird not to be able to do that. But
yeah.
what's always a pleasure when I know I'm talking to you, it's because of new music. And
Right.
you've got a new album out, man. And
Woo.
look, before we get into the album and before you talk about it and describe it, can you please describe the album cover? Because
Right.
I thought this was really interesting in the concept behind this.
Yeah. So I've always, ever since my encounter, if you will, people don't know about this, but I had some sort of experience in Egypt when I was in Egypt in 2000 and gosh, I'm going to say 2008. It could have been 2010. We were going from Alexandria, which is the north of Egypt, down to the airport at 3 in the morning through the Sahara Desert at night. 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, darkness. And it's not like Canada where you've got street lights everywhere. It's pitch dark. We've got an Egyptian driver in a bus, and he's taking my whole team, my whole crew, 7 of us.
Mhm.
Everyone else is sleeping except me. And actually my drummer. Thank God I had a witness with me. And then we looked in the distance, and I saw, as a joke, I was just making a joke because I saw 3 points in the sky, like three lights. And as a joke to Paul, my drummer at the time, I was like, yo, Paul, look, it's a UFO. And in literally like a second flat, it just grew bigger. It didn't even come closer. It grew on top of us. 3 circles in the sky, like a triangle
Wow.
formation, hovered over the van for at least 3, 4 seconds, which seemed an hour. I took a picture of it. I posted it on Facebook, and it shot up. And ever since then, I've been getting into the UFO alien subject. And it's almost like I feel that the cover is sort of me, the alien in this world. And then I put a mask on, and that's Karl Wolf. You know what I mean? So something like that.
That's an incredible man. All these years, I've never heard that story, man.
I know I don't tell it because you know what? No one was ready to accept it. Now, if you notice, the consciousness is open to, accepting this idea that we may not be alone.
I agree with you, man. I definitely agree with you. So let's get into the name of this album and the concept behind the music, because a lot, for the last couple of years, you've always had this sort of 80s, sort of 90s theme.
Right.
This one, I don't know. It feels different. It feels bigger. It feels like it's breathing. It feels more open, and it feels a little bit more ominous, if you know what I mean.
Yes, it's a little darker. It's a little darker.
Yes.
Someone said that to me. And even though it's very, my optimism and my hope is always optimistic and excitable energy, you know what I mean? And colorful. But for some reason, even, someone who works with me, Jackie, who does all my graphic design and whatnot, she was like, Carl, this reminds me of your first album, Face Behind the Face. But just a little, this is probably could I say, Carl, this is your darkest album? I'm like, really? It's weird because maybe it's a subject matter, Rudy. I mean, I'm kind of talking about our current situation, even though there are certain relationships, it's all about relationship and connection, right? Our lives are just connections. So maybe that's why she said that. I don't know. I'm just being me. And I'm obviously not, going to clubs. I'm not hanging out with people. So I'm really being me. This is a true representation of what I'm feeling.
I agree with her. I absolutely agree with her. It is a darker version of the music that you've done in the past. What's the
Yeah.
single out right now? And what's that song?
So Getaway is the single that was doing really well. So that's pretty much, I would say, the spearhead for the album. We have another focus record, which is called Before This Life Is Up. And that's kind of the focus record right now that we're pushing for with digitals and all that. But people, you know what? In this day and age, man, I don't care. Whoever likes the music likes the music. It's really tough to have one song represent a full body of work,
No, I agree with you. How did you feel? I saw some video of your music. How did you do some of these videos? Because it looks like you're outside downtown
Right.
at night. How did that work out?
I mean, there's permits, you can get, especially if you're a crew of 4 to 5, you can be together, and obviously everyone's masked and whatnot, except me, because I got to act and we keep it distant. As you notice, I'm always alone in all these videos. Man, we even created a video for Getaway that was completely CGI so that we wouldn't be seeing anybody and connecting with human beings. But yeah, man, I mean, we're pivoting, man. We're finding ways to make it work in a time where it's very, very difficult, but you got to be creative and come up with cool ideas of how to make it interesting yet alone.
It's funny though, because I think the one that I saw had a Miami Vice kind of feel to it, which I really liked. And again, it goes back to that 80s kind of theme still.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm an 80s baby, really. So that's, just goes hand in hand.
Absolutely, man. So we talked about the music, we talked about the
Yeah.
video, but creating the music. I know, as looking behind you, you have your own studio.
Yeah.
What were the difficulties in recording this music, especially during this pandemic?
You know what? One thing that was difficult was, how do I connect with other musicians and other talented people that I usually work with in order to accomplish an album, right? There's not just a single. Even with a single, even with one song, it's to do it all yourself from A to Z, like in terms of production, recording, mixing. I mean, I had to really teach myself a lot of skills. So I had to, buy some extra equipment, some heavier mics, some better sound audio interfaces, learn EQing and how to EQ my vocal perfectly. I mean, there's a lot of learning curve there, but it took me a year and a half. That's why it took a little longer. But I had about 25 songs. I narrowed them down to 13. I wanted a certain body of work that represented just how I'm feeling and just a nice flow to the album. I had some other people that were on other records that I had that are pretty upset at me right now, I would say, because I had to cut them out because it didn't make sense. It was too pre-COVID. That you gotta have your finger on the pulse and you gotta read the room. The songs in 2018 and 2019 are different than what people are feeling right now. So you gotta not be tone deaf to it.
Would this album been created if there wasn't COVID?
No, absolutely not. There's no way. There's a lot of things that happen in my life with my family, a loss of businesses, depressions, people getting COVID in my immediate family and friends and stuff. It's not easy. So it affects you. There's fear. There's mental health issues. So there's a lot of factors that go into my mental state when I'm producing an album that I know people are going to listen to, because they're all sort of waiting for something, and I wanted to make sure that it was perfect.
Is this a part one then? Because you just mentioned you got 25 songs. Is
Yeah.
there a chance that there is a part two to this? And if I can use that term, concept album, concept music.
Well, sort of that way. We're making an announcement in May.
Mhm.
Karina will let everyone know. It's a big announcement. I don't know if I could say anything, but it's sort of, I just signed a deal with someone really, really interesting, and we're doing something like that. You'll hear about it. It's in tech. It's in tech.
Okay. Okay. I
Yeah.
cannot wait for that.
Yeah.
Also, because we are still, like I said, we're shut down. And as you said, so many businesses are shut down too. Our venues are shut down. I think I used
Yeah.
that word 3 times. Is there a chance that you're going to be doing any kind of performances anywhere, whether it be, because I know you did the drive,
Yeah.
was it the drive-in last year? I do
Last
believe.
year.
Any chance you're going to be doing anything like that this year, or even just virtual performances until we know exactly what's happening?
You know what, Rudy? We've been discussing, my management and I have been discussing with different, events companies of what the next step is. What do we do? Do we plan a tour for 2022 and just focus on 2022 and cancel culture 2021? But we're not there yet. I think there are some people, it all depends on the government's restrictions. Once they open some restrictions for the summer, hopefully, look at this variant. I heard that we're in Ontario or in Toronto, we're like, I don't know, man. I heard Ontario's 4,600 cases.
Just read that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know how we're gonna. I don't get it. But hopefully, summer will open things up, and then maybe we could do some kind of, other drive-in style. I don't think it's gonna be a full-on concert like we're used to.
No, I think that's not going to be until 2022. I think they're going to
At
wait for
least,
everybody to get their shots, and
yeah,
those numbers have to come down. Like
yeah.
literally, we're talking about 5,000. It's got to come down. We got to
It's
be
great.
real.
Isn't it wild? Because we're sort of, man, I haven't moved from here, so I don't get it. Like, other than playing basketball by myself, like, how is this spreading? You know what I mean? It's so frustrating. So frustrating. Are people not staying home? Obviously they're not, but like, you think they'd be safe now. You think with everything we know, everyone would kind of understand. But it's, anyway,
No, I hear
we
you, man.
discuss it for another time, I guess.
No, I hear you loud and clear. In fact, there was a news story about a woman that was talking who got COVID. She's like, I wore masks, I wore
Right.
gloves, I'm doing everything that I'm being told, and I still got it, and she doesn't know how she got it. It's crazy. What advice, though, can you
Yeah.
give? I'm going to use it. I'm going to say musicians because it's
Right.
music that is also being very affected. What
Yeah.
advice can you give musicians out there who are trying to get their music out, who
Yeah.
can't perform out there, who are trying to do these virtual performances? But let's face it, you're at the mercy of Wi-Fi. If Wi-Fi cuts, you're screwed in that
Pretty
performance.
much.
What
Absolutely.
what advice can you give them getting through all this?
I think focus on your craft like I did. Just lock yourself up, and not necessarily. Enjoy the world. Obviously being safe, but like, get in the studio, work on your craft. This is the time. This is the moment, people, to focus on your dream. You've got everything kind of slowed down a little bit, and that dream that you had, that you wanted to explore, that business that you thought about 3 years ago. Now's the time to act on it, because people are all sitting in front of their computers, and there's a lot of transactions being done. Why do you think Bitcoin and Ethereum is exploding? It's because what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a nothing. They're selling a nothing. They're selling a dream. But at the end of the day, people are there. So what are they going to do? They're going to it's all psychology of human behavior, but they're also bored. So they're focused on everything online. So focus online.
All right. Last 2 questions. And every interview that I've done with you, I've asked you about this. So I'm going right back to it.
Oh,
When
no.
is the fashion stuff going to happen? And when are
Yeah.
you writing that damn book?
Oh man, I don't. The fashion stuff. Obviously, we were on to something, but then COVID hit and really just ruined everything. But you know what? That's not an excuse, because but I'll tell you something, Rudy. Music is still my passion, my love, my first priority. I think fashion and all that has to come as an exterior to that nucleus. I can never forget about the music. And believe me, as successful as I've been, knock on wood, we're not where I want to be yet, right? We see, guys like, and we respect them, guys like Drake, The Weeknd, people and they're Canadian, they're like us. I mean, we've touched them, they're friends of ours, we've got friends in common. At the end of the day, it's doable. And I want to get to that level, at least in the music industry, to set my foot in it before I create anything that's a little off topic or parallel.
Get that damn book done, man.
Yeah, I know. And the book will come. The book will come when I'm a little older.
Okay.
We're still there. I'm still okay.
Hey, I'm hoping to God that story that you just told us about the alien sighting is going to be in that book. And if that's just part of your life, I cannot wait to hear and read other things that have happened to you, my friend.
There's so much more.
I cannot wait. Look, my brother, thank you so much for this interview. Congratulations on the new music. Thank you for being an inspiration to Canadians out there, because as we know, so many Canadians are going through so much. They're seeing so many things. And as you said, losing family, losing jobs, and having somebody like yourself and having your music out there gives us just that much more hope to get through all this. Thank you so much for all of this.
I'm trying my best. Thank you, Rudy. Appreciate it.